This is 89.7 KRUI. Thank you all for joining us this evening for our live debut of Hit Dice, our podcast tabletop role-playing show. Here, DMs, GMs, and players alike will come around to sit together and play Dungeons and Dragons. I am your host, Ethan Spires, and Game Master for this evening and this series. Let's go ahead and meet the rest of our crew.
Hi, I'm Elisabeth Oster, playing Yola Earthfingers, a halfling bard.
I am Luke Althaus. I'll be playing Loral Lohan, a half-elf sorcerer.
My name is Maxfield Coenen. I will be playing Shane de Olver, a half-elf warlock.
And my name is Alex Lenaers. I am playing Damian Toiracsi, a high-elf rogue.
Wonderful. I'd just like to point out that we are all very excited here to start playing this evening. And just to let you know, the whole purpose of this show is just to kind of spotlight what it looks like for a group of friends to sit around and just play Dungeons and Dragons in their basement, in their home. It's just kind of a spotlight into our story here. So with that, without further ado, I think we're just going to hop right into it. So thank you all for joining us, and let's begin. Rheaume. Once a massive expanse of a continent filled with luscious forests and fruitful cities, it once bloomed with beauty and magic and light from the Kadar, a race of moon elves that once lived upon these lands. Now, blessed by the amber light of the lesser of the two moons, Cadamus, the Kadari Empire ruled over the continent with peace and prosperity. Until, of course, the departure. A cataclysmic event during the height of the Empire as a lunar solstice appeared, and those of pure blood, Kadar blood, began to glow and dissipate into shards of light. The forests began to wither and die, and the cities began to dissolve into chaos. After about 3 or 4 years of infighting, the cities stabilized, proclaimed themselves as providences here on the continent, while the forests withered completely into these badlands in between, where very little life resides. Our story takes place about 50 years after the departure. 100 miles away from the nearest shore, in the landlocked city of the old capital of Rheaume, Ledorum, a city known for its numerous conservatories and collections of artists and artisans. We visit our characters in a stomping ground of sorts, the Forgotten Boot, an old tavern towards the eastern side of the city. The outside is a little ramshackled, a little run down, but that adds to its charm. As looking down across it, a massive staircase leading up to these huge wooden doors that are most often at times open, and you can kind of feel the warmth and energy from the inside of its kind of glow from many of the fireplaces within. However, the path leading up to the Forgotten Boot has a massive arch. And above that, there are most likely hundreds of pairs of boots and shoes and other footwear that have been tossed up and above and now dangle, giving this place its name, the Forgotten Boot. Our characters here return from a mission. After investigating a forgotten watchtower a little past the city walls, a few miles out, and returning with a few artifacts, you return to Amanda Knight, a practitioner of the arcanical arts, a individual whom few of you have bumped into previously, but is now just kind of starting to come into the fold of this group as a whole. As you sit there, you have a cart full of your supplies and materials and whatnot outside, just kind of all around a small table. If you guys wouldn't mind describing yourselves as your characters in great detail. We'll start around here.
Yola Earthfingers is kind of a wild gal, I would say. Really frizzy hair, unmanageable, uncontainable. green eyes, brown, kind of dusty hair, has not been washed. So you don't really know if that's the right color. It's just kind of maybe dirt, you know?
All right, yeah.
A lot of just bright red drapey clothes, just very loud. And of course, just a huge set of bagpipes just hobbling, just kind of off-centered because Yola's pretty short, obviously. So, it's a lot of weight. So
Yeah,
kind of
how tall is
hobbling
Yola?
around. Probably like, I want to say like 4 feet.
All right, sounds good.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Yola Earthfingers. Now we move on over to Loral.
Loral Lohan is a half elf. Green eyes and very elongated facial structure. He has hints from his father, you can see, but he also has hints from his mother. And he has basic, just kind of brown, just a brown throw-on cloak, basically, with a nice belt. And on the belt, you can see he has two little hammers, which are kind of odd for looking at this guy walking down the street. But then you see a few trinkets and on his belt that are made of glass, and you see one that is actually of an elven female with green eyes.
Wonderful. Pass it on over to Shane.
Sure. Yeah. Shane is a rather tall individual. His golden irised eyes are set within his dark features. Dark hair, darker skin. Very, very olive toned. Wearing clothes that are such a dark brown that they look almost black. And in the folds of his jacket, flickering in and out of view, is a sword. Sometimes it looks like it's there, other times not. Slung across his back is a shield as well. Sort of just making him look like a weird hodgepodge of different characteristics. Like he's not as built as a warrior would be, but he's not as frail as a true academic would be either.
Wonderful. And lastly,
Damian has an aura about him. Cloud in a black cloak with a dark green inside. It's not often that you see his face. He just kind of vibes, chills, hangs out. But on his belt, underneath his cloak, kind of drapes over his hood and his body, you see almost like a tactical fanny pack, if you will.
so a fanny pack.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tactical
fanny pack.
That's the only thing fanny packs are. They're
Tactical. So yeah, it's like think
Selling
like
it.
if Batman were just a little bit more queer, and it's like it's fantastic.
All
It's
right.
wonderful. It's amazing. But inside there's all sorts of little goodies, like a disguise kit, little toys, little trinkets, little pocketbooks to keep things in. Other than these things, you don't really see a whole lot. You don't see the golden skin underneath the hood, or the piercing blue eyes, or the tiny pupils that are adjusted to the lighting of the world. You just see the little trinkets, the sword at the hilt, and a short bow across the back.
Wonderful. As our ragtag group of adventurers sit around the table, Amanda, who is relatively tall, they have their robes that are pretty standard for anybody who is a practitioner of the arcane, that are kind of laced with this white, gold, and navy blue tones, kind of all throughout their wares. You do notice that they do have a kind of a holster to their side that has looks to be a small book inside of it. And their hair is every time you've seen them, every time any one of you has seen her, she has her hair put up in some fashion, whether it be in some ornate kind of bun at the top or just some messy thrown together type of situation, just basically keep her hair out of her face. Today is one such event where you can definitely see that she just put whatever up and is now out and about here to see you all. Again, you have all returned from this mission where she's kind of told you to investigate this forgotten watchtower and search for any sort of goodies, relics, or otherwise that may have reference to the departure or the Kadari Empire in general. After a few drinks here tonight, with pleasantries exchanged, she finally kind of leans in and says, all right, all pleasantries aside. Did you acquire anything useful, or did you find anything in regards to the Kadari Empire?
Well, I do believe we may have found quite a few goodies for you, Amanda.
Really?
Yes.
Do go on.
Yes. One thing that I was able to bring in here, and I'm going to bring out the journal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's another one in the cart, a bit conspicuous to try and bring indoors.
Wonderful. Well, what have you brought? What is it?
Sure. This, I believe, is a first-hand account of the departure.
You see her form just kind of straightens slightly, leans in even further. Her human features kind of just peering over the table towards you. I'm sorry, you're going to have to run that by me again. A what?
Exactly as I said, Amanda. First-hand account of the departure. And I'm going to open it up to the last page and slide it across the table.
She reaches out and, almost as if like cradling a child, picks this thing up. And you see her eyes just begin to move across the words at an incredible speed. This is fascinating. Well done, all of you. Well done. This is quite impressive. This is worth quite a bit, and I will be sure that we will make it worth your while. Of course. I'm excited. What else have you found then?
Shall we take this outside?
Sure.
Please lead on.
Leading her back to the cart.
Sure, yeah, you kind of make your way outside down the large staircase. You notice that there are a few individuals kind of having their arms wrapped around one another, slowly trudging their way down the stairs. It looks to be a half-elf gentleman and looks to be a human man. Again, just kind of swinging back and forth, and you hear one of them kind of singing to themselves slowly in Elvish. Andulan durale fanore. And the other one's, oh, shut up. And they just begin to kind of move down the stairs still. You lead Amanda over to the cart. And there, kind of wrapped in all the kind of hodgepodge cloth and fur that you found in the cart to begin with, are all the rest of your kind of goodies or whatever you wish to store in there. There is, however, a large kind of like pole that is protruding out to the side, which is that second artifact in which you found.
Gonna sort of uncover it with a flourish.
Of course.
And bring it out. This thing is long. Like,
yes.
It's taller than even me, I think.
Yes. Yeah. This spear that you provide is massive. It has elegance in its craft and its gold and silvers as it kind of trills all the way up from the base of the spear to the point where it kind of winds itself together to its kind of spaded head. And immediately again, Amanda's eyes just kind of go wide. You do notice, however, that it's not as wide as that first encounter, but still admiration and impressed. She reaches out, takes a hold of it for a moment, looks at the rest of you, and we're going to hit our first spot.
We will be right back after this short break. Hi again. My name is Alex Lenaers, and you're listening to an archived episode of Hit Dice, a live D&D actual play show. If you're enjoying it so far, consider following us online and tuning in live on krui.fm. You can check our socials for our current broadcast schedule, as well as our archive schedule. Thanks. Let me send you back to the show.
And we're back. Amanda turns, looks at you all. To say the least, I am quite impressed with your finds. Are these the only two? You said you had more.
These are the only ones that I believe we found of note. Others are still magical, but more mundane, less of use to researchers and more to adventurers in the field.
Of course, as mentioned, anything not involving the Kadar is yours to keep. And I can see a few of you, and she looks over towards Yola and just kind of rests her gaze there for a moment and says, I see a few of you may have sticky fingers.
Wow. Episode 1.
Doesn't look at the guy in the black cloak with like the hood up.
It's called profiling, baby. Yeah.
She does kind of look at the rest of you, says, perfect. Well, in regards to payment, of course I don't have it on me, especially in the quantity that you'll be provided with. However,
What is that quantity?
well, I'll have to have it officially appraised by one of our artifacts specialists. But if you are so interested, instead of waiting till tomorrow, I could just take you to one of the depots now, if you'd be interested.
What do we think?
This isn't something Amanda's ever offered before, is it?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would say go ahead, everybody roll a history check for me. It's first roll of the game
First
here.
roll of
Super
the season.
intelligent.
Oh no, I'll pick that one up later.
That's a big old 3.
Awesome.
11.
11.
That's a 12 for me.
12.
That is a 19 plus 3 for a 22.
22. All right. I would say Laurel's just having a moment of a brain fart of just not really putting all the pieces together and whatnot. But since you all kind of were born here, at least grew up here, you are aware of the artifact depots. There are 3 of them. Established shortly after the departure, and once things kind of began to settle in Ladorum. These artifact depots are basically just where people go to dump anything they may have found involving the old empire, or otherwise in way of just magical items, in which people just didn't want to have to deal with. Your common folk, if you find something, you didn't want to have to worry about holding on to something this valuable, can turn it in. Again, there are 3 of them throughout the entire city. It's something where tours are definitely not offered. There are spaces that you know. It's a space of learning and research and testing of all of these sorts of artifacts and whatnot. But again, to the open public, this is not something that occurs often. So, Amanda kind of still turns. All right then. Well, I'm sure the night shift is just getting started at this point. So, shall we?
Yeah.
Not an opportunity that knocks often.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
Onward then. She turns away and begins to walk kind of down the street towards the a little bit towards the west. Who's carrying the cart? Are you leaving the cart?
We are taking this car.
We're probably taking the car with him.
yeah.
So is it? It's like a pull behind.
Yeah.
Could just like 2 people grab one arm
Oh, for
apiece
sure.
and just kind of walk.
Yeah, you could probably make your way at
That's
a
probably,
pretty
yeah.
decent pace just
Yep.
with one person there too. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a huge cart.
I guess as certified muscle boy, I will.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Are you taking both handles?
I mean, she's actually stronger than I am.
am I really?
Out of curiosity, what is
Yeah,
your strength?
Okay.
14.
You have a 14.
Mine's a 10.
Very nice.
Just thinking about my height. Sorry.
If strength was on a scale
over the head.
to 20, I'm about a 10.
1 to 20. Yeah.
Okay, so Shane, you're just grabbing the cart then.
I think so.
Okay, yeah, you just snag the cart. All right, you start to begin to pull it down the way. All right, yeah. The night has just kind of begun here. The stars begin to kind of peek out through a bit of the overcast night, and you also notice the large crescent form of Ilsaria, the larger moon, giving off its faint blue-violet glow, and that of Cadamus, the smaller moon, kind of set in the eye of the crescent, with its heavy amber glow, which is much, it's far more prominent over the night sky than the light of the larger moon, at least in this area. A few minutes of travel, about 10 minutes of walking, you all are kind of a jovial lot of sorts. I would say, let's see here. I'll have Yola and Loral. Go ahead. I need both of you guys to make perception checks for me.
Gosh dang. 6.
14.
14.
Thank you.
Awesome. You just kind of keeping eye out on the streets. Loral, you're just kind of moseying about, just as you would normally, just going out for a night walk. Growing up on the streets is very different, however. You have your eyes kind of out.
That's right.
Just kind of
Loral,
growing
that's
up on the
right.
streets.
Learn from me.
I would say that you notice there are a few eyes on you. I mean, to see people moving in a larger group as night begins to move closer inward to the city, where a lot of like businesses are businesses, conservatories, places of learning, things like that, where work would happen during the day, is unusual to see that group of people moving towards that rather than to the outskirts of the city, where a lot of the taverns and bars and things are. But nothing really beyond just a few curious glances. No one seems to be following you or anything like that. Just an occasional glance in your direction. You come around a bend and kind of switch direction slightly at a cross section and notice the massive form of the warehouse, basically, of this artifact depot. It's pretty crude in design. It looks as if you put a massive box in place, and the walls on the outside are of thick stone. In its entirety and its size, you're probably looking at maybe 400, 500 feet across. And it's probably about 80 to 100 feet tall. It's a massive building in comparison to a lot of other buildings around the area. Amanda continues to kind of walk upward, and as you approach, you do notice that the door or the entrance area, there's a staircase that leads up to looks to be just flush up against a wall. No door, no entrance, anything like that. Amanda walks up the few staircases, and you see her produce, it looks to be a small jewel of some kind, and just place it up against the stone. The stone almost seems to just meld away and is just absorbed into the rest of the wall, creating a very, for as smooth of a transition, it just kind of creates a geometric shape that continues to kind of swirl as in a way of an opening for this door. You see her kind of look inward, kind of look around, and look back at the rest of you all. All right. Upon entry, you will be searched. Your items of any sort of magical potency will have no effect here, as just so you are aware. Any weapons are requested to be left towards the entrance before we make our way into the warehouse proper. I hope this won't be too much of a problem.
No.
Damian's eyes light up. Just very skeptical, very unsure, very cautious.
Do I see where she pointed to? Like
In
to
way
leave
of-
items?
You guys haven't entered yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like right as you get in, it's like the check-in station, and then you're beyond that. So,
Yeah. Maybe. I have a sort of bound item.
I'm sorry.
It's bound to me.
By magical means.
Maybe? I don't know a lot about it.
You'll be searched when you come on in, and we can decide. But just wanted to make sure you're all aware before we enter.
I don't intend
Okay.
to cause issues.
She looks kind of just tilts her head slightly, looks at you, just right then. Follow me, and she enters this space. As you all begin to kind of file in, it is just kind of this arch of a desk that encompasses the most of the space. And as you enter, there are 3 individuals that are just sitting on the other side of this desk waiting for you to appear, apparently. They ask each of you which 3 of you are coming up first? You see Amanda's kind of recognized the person on the other side of the desk, just nods and has them kind of step to the side and just kind of goes, next.
If I'm going to be an issue, should I go first? Should I be last?
Yeah. If you're probably going to
Sure.
take the longest.
I'll go ahead. I'll try and get
Less
this sorted.
suspicious at this point.
Hands behind your head, turn around slowly.
I assume the position.
Turn. You notice that all they do is they pull a pretty basic looking wand out from their side, and it just has this kind of deep kind of green glow to it as he just kind of moves it up and down as we enter the 2 other individuals. It's very simple. Yeah. The 2 other individuals kind of turn towards, I would say you're a little hesitant still, so you 2, so that will be Yola and Lohan. 2 other individuals look towards you. All right, come on.
Okay.
Hands behind your heads.
I put my hands behind my head.
There's a larger gentleman who's, Miss, hands behind your head, please.
Oh, perfect size proportion here.
Yeah.
Fun.
Right.
Is it like a
Hands
half
behind your
orc?
head. No, it's just a
big dude?
Portly guy. That's all of you. There are a few kind of pings, but you're told, any weapons, please just place them on the table. Thank you.
I just toss my hammers over there.
All right. And then Damian, you are up next at that point then, so kind of working forward. Weapons on the table, please.
I very slowly, begrudgingly come up. First sword, out. Second sword, out. First of 3 daggers, out. Continue the process until a good 30 pounds lighter Damian now is. And 30 times as angry. I'll say. Very frustrated at this nuisance.
Man, you have a lot of weapons.
So,
It's that fanny pack.
It's my super fanny pack.
It's tactical.
I will say, Shane, you are able to part with your weapon, it seems.
Okay.
As you place it on the table.
Cool.
Turns to ash.
So the rest of you, you would be weaponless at this point, just so you are aware, moving forward until you retrieve your weapons.
I am a weapon.
Magic?
My buttons.
So magic just like doesn't work.
Magic currently, right now, seems to be you still feel a
I try and
presence of
like
your
just
magic.
molder some of the ground, like
So magic in
quietly,
general.
just seeing if it like works.
Gone.
I'm going to quietly cause a small earthquake.
Quietly, just like move some of the rock, like some of the, just move it a little bit. Not
As soon as you
much.
start to do, as soon as you kind of reach your hand outward, the door behind begins to close and just kind of melds into place. And as soon you see, there are elements of the earth underneath of you that start to begin to slightly curl up. As soon as the door closes, it stops, and the spell you were trying to cast is void.
Whack.
Dang.
You all kind of feel a sudden like boom, as any sort of magical item you would have, any sort of magical ability
music.
that you have
Yeah, is music a weapon?
is
magical music.
has no magical essence. It basically kind of has dulled it to a point of uselessness to become mundane at this point. Shane, you are hit with a sudden silence. You didn't realize that you were missing. As soon as the door closes and that feeling kind of hits all of you, it's the first time you've noticed there is the almost like a just fracturing white noise just in your head. It's just there's constant like tearing sound.
Like it starts or it stops when the door
just stops. And it was so minuscule that you didn't register it until this moment where all magic has just gone away.
Interesting.
Amanda at this point looks at the 4 of you, excuse me, and says, "Right then, let's go meet the man of the hour." and begins to walk down the corridor. Do you all follow?
Yes.
Perfect.
Are there just like magical items just sitting around?
Not yet.
Dang it.
You can try and gank one?
So you begin to walk down this kind of
Meltstone grapple.
you begin to walk down a smaller corridor, and until finally you see light towards an entrance. And as soon as you exit this small kind of tunnel, a massive open warehouse space is present before you, where there are racks upon shelves upon racks upon shelves of items. It's stuffed full in this warehouse. There are at least probably 400 or 500 rows of shelves, and at least 4 or 5 shelves high on each
We're
one of them.
full Raiders of the Lost Ark.
This is, yes.
This is
full
a
bore.
lot of
This is
holy
one of 3.
holy
It seems to be, as you notice as well, as you enter this space, it's a very TARDIS situation. Even though the outside is still massive in comparison to the other buildings in the area, as soon as you've entered, it is almost double the size on the inside, being able to cater to as many racks as it can. Amanda turns around, waves an arm out over the stacks, and just says, "Welcome. This is one of our artifact depots here in Ladorum. I can see by your expressions this isn't something that any of you have seen before. Am I correct?"
No, not seen this before. This is pretty cool.
Would be right.
No.
Wonderful. Well, please, if you have any questions, this is maybe an inclusive tour as well for you. But let us meet one of our specialists here. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question.
Loral?
Are any of these purchasable?
There are
question.
Gift shop too.
No, it's a fair question. There are plenty who have definitely attempted to acquire such items. There are a few here that would be available for purchase. Not only is this a portion of a research facility in the way of the Kadar, it is in fact just a useful site to decipher magical means on any sort of item that you may provide. And with that, because not everything that is magical is connected to the Kadar, those are then released back into the public if deemed safe for purchase or a collectible of sorts. This section here, and she kind of is beginning to walk, and there's you walk past a few rows, and when I say a few, it's about 20. And then you notice this pretty large clearing that seems to be in the dead center of this this warehouse. There are desks and lab stations, and it looks to be just different areas to work. And there are about 50 or so individuals who are just kind of rummaging through different papers, items. There are people bringing things off the shelves and back. And you do notice that there are a few individuals who are in almost looks like to be a sand pit of sorts. Outside of the sand pit, there are 4 kind of metallic rods that have these orbs at the top of them that seem to hum slightly. And in there, you do notice as an individual takes what looks to be a wand from outside off of one of the desks. As soon as they step into this space, you see the wand begin to just kind of erupt in flame as a blade of flame is produced. It seems as though whatever in this space, it seems to be a zone in which you would be able to use sorts of magic. With that, you notice a form in which Amanda kind of turns and walks towards, here he is, and taps him on the shoulder. A hunched over form that seems to be just observing this space in the middle. No taller than about 5'5", at least hunched over, with this deep brown colored leather tunic that kind of cascades down past their waist, almost to their thigh. And you notice a thick red scaled tail is protruding from their back as well. their head is adorned with a ton of these deep maroon, almost brown colored scales. And as soon as they turn at the tap of Amanda, you see these piercing yellow eyes and a dragon-like snout towards their mouth. Go ahead and make a history check if those are interested.
Absolutely.
20 total.
20 total.
3 + 3 = 6.
6.
15.
15.
History, right?
That's one.
7.
For those who may not have had a experience outside of the city to a great extent, or even that of like an official learning or traditional learning style, rather, this is almost like out of a fairy tale, even in this mystical setting. This person is a dragonborn. Not only that, Shane, you would definitely know that there are very few dragonborn in Ledorum at all. Like you probably count them on 2 hands type of thing. Like it's very, very rare. Most of them have not been around, like have not been in Ledorum for a bit of time. None of them are really locals. So they definitely have come from outside the city, either been brought in or have traveled in, which you would all know is rather difficult with the hundreds of miles of badlands outside of the city. As soon as they turn, you just hear, Amanda, and he kind of turns and he bows his head slightly and he looks over towards the rest of you. Amanda turns back towards you. You'll have to excuse me. He does not speak common or elvish. He speaks only that of his home. So for all those who speak,
That's quite all right. I understand.
so you understand Draconic then?
I do.
You speak? Do you speak Draconic?
I do.
Wonderful. All right. So you'll have a little bit of insight here, and some of this dialogue to come then. As he turns in your direction, and what he had spoken of then was saying that have they brought what you said they would bring? Basically, the equivalent of that. And Amanda turns back to him, responds in Draconic. They have done so and more. Turning back to you all then, just kind of waiting, looking at you expectingly. If you would mind presenting. This is Gund Jurak, one of our finest here. Brought in from, he's definitely not a local if you couldn't gather that much, but he is one of our finest in way of artifact research here. So please, don't be shy. Present what you have found here.
I took the reins before. Would someone else care to?
Sure, I can do it. And then I'll grab, who has it though?
You do now.
I have the notebook. I pull it out of my satchel. And then I'll go, yeah, so we were up in the tower in the Badlands, and
I'll serve as a translator.
we first, well, first, I guess, we ran into a group of kind of like thug guys. They were pretty easy to deal with, but they were a weird group.
Yeah.
And then we went up, got beat up by some rocks. And there were a lot of bats too. There were a lot of bats.
Yeah.
A lot of
fair.
But yeah, we got this notebook, and it's first-hand account of the departure.
I'm just gonna
It was,
say
it was pretty. It was yeah.
found first-hand account in an abandoned watchtower.
Okay. All right. As you begin to kind of, as you say that, and just Loral continues to talk. So Shane, you just say that right out of the gate.
Well,
and,
no, like towards the tail end.
Okay,
after
gotcha.
he's sort of like, Okay.
looks back at you, looks back at Loral, looks back at Amanda, and then just reaches his hand out towards you in
Yeah.
a very similar fashion.
I found it very fascinating.
As he begins to grab it, he just delicately holds this notebook and begins to slowly flip through and read, and just begins to nod slightly. Lohaya. What else?
I pull out the giant spear, I guess. I guess it was on my back or something. I don't know.
Magic.
It's magic.
As soon as you produce that one, you see a glint of recognition. And they turn is, place it with the other spades. Said in Draconic.
Yes.
Spades, as in like, this is a gardening tool.
It's a magical
That's what he
gardening
says.
tool.
Lost in translation.
Amanda kind of grabs it and hands it off to another steward. You see, he kind of ushers Amanda to the side for a moment, just kind of politely. I'll go show you there. One moment. And he pulls Amanda to the side, and there's a bit of not heated discussion, but just there's definitely some information that he's trying to present to her in a hushed fashion. And let's see here. I would say since you can speak the language, go ahead, Shane. I'll have you make a. We'll make it a perception check here.
16.
16. All right. You hear in kind of the hushed words, and again, a Draconic is a kind of a broken language. A lot of a way of like sentence structure is just rearranged most of the time. So you get the essence of inventory was off again. I suspect janitor. He missing now. Night of theft. Amanda kind of turns, nods. Yes, you can laugh. It's ridiculous. Yes.
Hold it in.
No, it is.
That's so funny.
Rogue janitor.
It's the janitor.
It's always the janitor.
Always
If it's not the janitor, it's the butler. Like an upper class janitor. I'm with you.
She turns back, kind of discusses, and just finishes up the conversation, quieted tones, and then is presented with a large kind of satchel of what you would assume to be coin, as it kind of jingles as Amanda grabs it from another steward that passes by, kind of bows, and then moves back to their work. Turns back to you all. Your payment for your troubles, I hope you will see that it will suffice for your tasks. She presents that to you. Again, it's kind of it's a small satchel full of coin.
Nice.
So whoever wants to take that, she just kind of holds it out by the strap towards any of you.
I'm into satchels. Damian's into satchels.
You snag it?
Dan.
All right, you snag the satchel, put it on. All right. And with that, she kind of turns, looking at the rest of you.
I have a question.
Yes?
Do you have any other books from like any other scholars or any other accounts in your artifact collection? Have you found anything else relatively like it?
She turns back towards Jirok and just kind of exchanges a few words in Draconic. She turns back and says, a few, very few, not at this location.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because I mean, there's racks and racks of items, but there's no, I didn't see any bookshelf anywhere.
This has everything from magical artifacts of the Kadar to house plates created. It's anything and everything in way of research to try and discover the mysteries of the departure.
Yeah.
But in regards to current employment, might I ask, do you have any current contracts that you are bound to?
Not that I'm aware of, but we might be looking into some missing persons.
Oh?
Yeah. Unless you've got some missing persons of your own that you need looked after.
I was unaware that you had that in your repertoire of skills. Allow me to discuss with Jirok for a moment. She turns back and begins to kind of present this idea. And with that, we're going to hit our second break.
Hi, Alex again. We as a show are lucky enough to have the support and facilities of KRUI 89.7, a student-ran radio station based in Iowa City. Check the station out on krui.fm and on the airwaves. And thank you, listeners, very much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
And we're back. Amanda turns back to you all. If you would be so interested, it seems as though we have a thief to catch. I know that at least one of you here is quite skilled in ways of perception and insight. Investigation work. Damian, I know that you have done such in the past. Am I mistaken?
I have.
Thanks, Loral.
I say it with full confidence.
You want to make a deception check?
Yes, I would.
All right, let's roll.
I want her to believe that I've done this. 22.
Ooh.
She looks for a moment, seemingly arches an eyebrow for a moment as if to believe you, and then tilts her head back forward as in not buying it. With a natural 20, she sees right through your deception.
Dang.
And she says, I doubt that. Regardless, let us take a look at our situation here. I will discuss with Jarok to see if there are any other details. If you wouldn't mind, it seems as though an artifact has gone missing. And so has our janitorial staff.
Oh, is he okay?
Well, that remains
They?
to be seen. I'm not sure. Please, come with me. After a few moments of discussion between Jarok and the rest of you all, the information is presented to you as such. The piece that was missing isn't necessarily something that a highly sought after item, at least to the common eye. It's something that research had just begun on, and there wasn't much in way of information to be gathered quite yet. So it's still a bit of a mystery on what exactly had been stolen, but you do know the location of where in the racks it was stolen. And with that, I will say if you guys want to go ahead and make investigation checks, just to kind of gather a bit of more information in the area, please do so now.
While they do that, I'll just try and talk to Amanda for a little bit then.
Sure.
Tuck her up after you lied to her.
It's what I do.
Yeah.
It's my character trait.
It's the game.
I guess I just want to ask her, are there any ways that we'd be able to track said item? Is there anything?
No, unfortunately, and it's a bit of a mystery on how one would even attempt to try and either break in or out. There is the only entrance.
Yeah, I feel like it would be pretty hard.
It's meant to be.
Understandable.
And you kind of looking around in the area, she kind of references up towards the corners of the ceiling. And as you look up, these stones are meant to, again, dampen any sort of magic, creating a very difficult atmosphere for anyone to teleport in or out or otherwise. So one could say that I guess I'm not sure. Investigation work isn't really my strong suit, but
Yes.
With that though, investigation checks will start around with Yola.
That's a 9.
That's a 9. All right.
23.
23.
Big investigator.
17. Awesome. All right. Yola, you kind of find yourself lost in the stacks. You kind of start
They're
to
too
wander,
tall for
and
me.
you can make it to the first shelf. You're looking at the first shelf. I would say, yeah, not much in way of anything noticeable, at least from your eye. Damian and Shane, however, you guys begin to look out and you see the 4 gems that Amanda kind of pointed out. And as you kind of look at the rest of the space here, you kind of start to put the pieces together. Looking down at the site, there is seemingly no disturbance. which is strange because on the artifacts to the left and to the right of this very vacant spot, there isn't much, but there is, with the 23, there is a slight layer of dust. And when looking at the section where the item was said to be, there's absolutely no dust whatsoever. Down below, underneath as well, onto the ground, again, just in the space right where that item would be, seems to be relatively untouched, almost too untouched. You also notice a kind of a slight path with that, leading back towards past the stacks towards the kind of central space. You hear someone kind of call out, and Drock kind of just turns and begins to kind of stomp on over almost. You just hear a slight commotion. And as you kind of round around the stacks again, seeing in the central space the kind of sand pit area is about foot or two submerged in water. And as this looks to be, some intern has this massive jug just upside down and just kind of
That is tough.
and it just seems to be endlessly pouring out water into the space. As it reaches the kind of this those four large silver domed rods, you see the blue shimmering barrier of magic in that space begin to appear as the water pumps up against it and just begins to slowly continue to rise. And with that, Jirok kind of moves over to the side of one of these poles or rods, and you notice there is a similar looking teal-colored gem to those placed at the tops of the ceiling. He takes his hand, places it on top of it, and whispers, it seems to be a word, and the water within begins to slowly descend. And you hear him just kind of call out, basically translating to, "You idiot, turn the jug over." Which he doesn't really understand, but getting the reference of it, he turns it back over. And the water all seems to kind of just seep into the sand below and begin to kind of slowly whirlpool down into the space until finally it dissipates. The barrier then kind of shimmers once before then remaining invisible. With that, in way of portions of investigation otherwise, I would say, Damian, you pick up here too. And it's explained that in way of teleportation wise, even that of a teleportation scroll spell and whatnot, those types of spells are blocked within the space, even within the kind of magical use area. There's a specific enchantment used for any sort of transportation. It is explained, however, in this space, the large sand pit, it is, you are able to morph the space how you so choose if you are a chief
Authorized?
If you are authorized to an extent. So that's why it seemed as though people were kind of trying to get Jirok back to the space so he could activate that said device. I would say, though, with you two peering in, I guess I leave it to you all. That's about all the information that you can gather, at least in this space, and leave it to your speculation.
So there's just a clear non-dust path from there to this middle circle?
So it seems. Not necessarily clear at this point. I mean, there's been people traversing through it, but it seems to be pointing towards that space. But with that, unfortunately, our time is up for the evening. Thank you all for joining us, our one listener, or two, or three. How many of you are out there?
Hundreds.
Thank you for listening here
Hundreds,
tonight.
if not thousands.
I'm
Don't be
sure.
modest.
Yes, booming show we are.
I'd probably guess a million. Yeah.
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 Yeah, one hit wonder.
We
Just
will.
kidding.
we will jump back into the unfolding mystery of this thief. Hopefully next week at around the same time. There are a few episodes that come before. Alex, where can they find us?
Absolutely. You can find us on anywhere you listen to podcasts, on the KRUI, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all them good business. SoundCloud, I think, is on there. Whole bunch of stuff. And then also on the official Hit Dice YouTube channel. All sorts of wonderful places, all sorts of wonderful things. Go check it out and check out KRUI since you're here listening out.
Incredible. Thank you all again for everyone here tonight. And thank you for all your listeners. And until we roll again, have a good night.